Hello and welcome to the Answer podcast. My name is Paweł Burza, and as always, I am joined by my friend and co-host.
Hello, Sebastian Kalemba here, and I'm the game director of The Witcher 4.
And who do we have today? Because it's the 10th anniversary of The Witcher 3. We're recording this in May, which means it's the anniversary, and we have incredible guests. Who do we have?
Special month, special anniversary, and special guests. Today, we are joined by two amazing guests. Marcin Iwiński, who's a co-founder of CD PROJEKT RED and currently a part of the supervisory board, and Adam Badowski, who's currently our joint CEO.
Exactly. Two incredible people. Big gravitas. I'm super excited because I always wanted to interview Marcin Iwiński and Adam at the same time, and we actually get to do it here in this memorable time for the Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. But let's not prolong the intro. Let's jump into and meet our guests.
Let's do this.
All right. It's hard to start this one because it's May. It's the 10th anniversary of the Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. And we have two incredible guests with us here today. Marcin, Adam, how you guys doing?
Pretty good.
Good. How are you?
I'm great. I'm just excited to talk to you because I remember for me, it's also 10 years in the company. I remember when I joined the company, you guys were icons, rock stars, and you still are to this day. And you shipped one of the biggest games that had a big influence on me as a person that came from the community to the company. So the ability to work with you has been an incredible privilege. But tell me, Witcher 3 after Witcher 2, what were the ambitions? What were the ideas? How do you feel after this, 10 years today?
First of all, your introduction doesn't help.
Yeah, but just one more addition here because we sounded really Polish. How are you? Good. We're great. We're amazing. We was
the
like
American
Polish
way.
grim. We're good. Just buzz off.
But at least he added, and you? How are you?
That was very nice. That was very nice.
I was like, I don't care.
It's gonna be on my my journaling at the end of the day. I'm gonna, Adam asked me how I was today. I was like, yes.
Yeah, put into your CV.
Okay.
So
What
10
was
years.
the question?
So the ambitions. The ambitions of Witcher 3. Yeah, you talk about the game ambitions. I'll talk about the other ambitions.
Mm-hmm.
It was
Especially after
mentioned.
Witcher 2, right? Because Witcher 2
After Witcher
finished,
2.
and then you jumped into the Witcher 3, new ambitions, new project, like huge community waiting for the next.
Of course, we can talk more about it, but The Witcher 2 doubled the success of the first Witcher. So we continued with the White Hunt project, and of course, we had huge ambitions to. We mentioned this many times, to connect proper, super solid storytelling narration with the open world concept. And back then it was a huge challenge. Truly, it was a challenge. Technically, it was a challenge. Design-wise, it was a huge challenge because our games, it's a constellation of quests, events, encounters, and put it into the open world was our dream. But we've never had such an experience.
Oh, come on! But when we were talking about it, it sounded crazy. People didn't believe us.
Yes,
and it's
exactly.
like today, it's obvious you can do it. Of course, yeah.
That's true. And there were two elements because right now it's pretty well known that The Witcher represents dark fantasy genre. But back then it wasn't that popular, and the Game of Thrones helped us a lot to make it more, widely recognized. And so it was one chance to translate, to tell people, okay, what's going on, because dark fantasy is grounded in realism. On one hand, it's grounded in realism, and on the other hand, it's still fantasy. Mm-hmm. So it was one challenge. The other one was to, like I mentioned, to connect both sides open world life, living world, and narration storytelling that is deep and very enjoying. Yeah.
So let me add like the other side, so like more sides, so the sort of the business, the publishing, I would say also the creative freedom side, because on Witcher 2 we had a co-publishing deal, so we were pretty much in dialogue.
Sure.
We couldn't do everything we wanted to do, like creatively we could, but sort of we had certain limitations. And the goal for Witcher 3 is we do it on our own terms. So we really wanted to get a distribution deal, and back in the day, the physical format was the prevailing one, so you had to talk with the so-called gatekeepers, so distributors, business partners. We didn't have all the money to fund the full production of the game, and we managed to secure great deals with Warner Brothers in the US, with Bandai Namco in Europe, and it was on our terms, in terms of we have full creative freedom, and we're able to deliver on the crazy idea. So I think this is the foundation is super important. The second part, which I think it's crucial to mention, is we wanted to go multi-platform. And today it sounds like, hey, we do multi-platform games, yeah. But Witcher 2 first was released on PC,
Exactly.
only a year after on X360. And Witcher 3 was like not only a huge open world storytelling, all these bells and whistles, and pretty much creating a new standard, but also shipping it on 3 platforms at the same time. And this was, I think it's a huge challenge.
Even today is a challenge. I think
Yeah.
it's super exotic. Like many companies are releasing the games just for one platform still.
Yeah, like we with Cyberpunk, for example. Yeah.
There are growing expectations from the gamers, which is good but super challenging. But I almost forgot there was one more challenge during the Witcher development, because we switched from the team about 80, maximum 100 during the Witcher 2 development period to 230, and I remember that it was really truly big, truly challenging, and right now we have 1,400 people in the team, about 700 devs, and it's growing.
Yeah.
Of course, it's for multiple projects, but one project consists of about 500 plus devs. So it's a different situation.
It's a
But
different
back
beast.
then, 230, switching from 100 to 230, it was a thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would like to get back to the thing you've said about the dark genre, that Game of Thrones helped a bit, but also I think it was challenging, but at the same time, it was also about infusing our folk, the Slavic, into The Witcher 3, and ultimately it became our like a super like pros kind of a
Big selling
big
point.
selling
Yeah.
point. Like people till now they are still repeating, talking about like how folky it is, how fresh it is because of that. Can you tell a little bit more about that fact?
To be honest, it wasn't our idea. It was Andrzej Sapkowski's idea from the original one, and all those local, fairy tales that are twisted. It was the pillar of all those stories, all those books. And we took it and we continued, and it was an instant success. I mean, it was fresh. It's still fresh, and it makes our games or our stories different than others. So we continue. We like it, and it's like our North Star. Yeah, when it comes
But come on,
to
like it was-
storytelling and the mood and the tone of
I think it
our
was
games.
kind of obvious and easy, because we were and still are huge fans of Sapkowski's books. So like we didn't think, hey,
Yeah.
is it going to fit? Is it going to work? Like there wasn't a master plan. It's like, hey, we love it. we think other peoples will love it too, and you know, and we are right.
That's awesome.
And it's not only Slavic. We take all the fairy tales from Europe, mostly our region from Germany, Ukraine, Russia, and Poland, and we try to continue this the legacy of Andrzej Sapkowski, because every tale has to be reinterpreted and translated to the modern language, emotions, and tensions. Tension.
Do you remember from the whole like production process and when you were working on the game? Because what I heard from a lot of devs is there was a lot of ideas, there was a lot of creativity, there was a lot of things, and the project was growing. When was the moment where everybody decided, okay, we need to, you know, solidify some things and go in a like a concrete direction? This is what the game is going to be. This is what it's going to have. No more adding stuff. Let's move into production. Like this they call it make or break moments. So these moments where there's just too many things and you need to like create a North Star in development and say, okay, we're going this direction. No more crazy town.
It's a difficult question, because we always know what's the idea for the game. Yeah, but the development process is super multi-layered. So if you are excited initially, if you are excited about the concept, the general concept of the game, then you have to switch to mid layer and super detailed layers, and of course devil is in the details. It becomes to be super challenging at some point. So general picture, general ideas are great, and it stays till the end. But we are adding new aspects, new story plots during the production process, and it's kind of natural. Plus, the last mile is always surprising to me, because our team is so creative, and the last mile brings you so many good things in every quest, in every aspect of the character plots. So at one point it's great, because the game becomes better and better and better, but production-wise, it's a nightmare.
I remember the moment, because I can imagine that you finished Witcher 2, you had this big idea to make the deep storytelling with open world, but what does the open world is really like? What's the future of open world games? I remember the moment when I think you were running through the let's call it continent, and there was this bridge, and you couldn't jump into the water and dive, and you said like, no, so it's not open, so it's not open. Let's add diving, and we had. I remember that was the moment that nobody like actually was filling this up. You know, no content,
no content.
Like literally, it's like it's not open. What do you mean?
Well, it's not. You can't dive into the water, right?
Yeah. It sounds simple, right?
Our games have to be super immersive. So if you have water, you have to swim. If you have swimming, you have to dive. And but we realized that there's actually nothing behind the wall.
It was literally no mesh. Even like
I remember our conversations, because it was always impossible to judge how big it will be when you will actually make it. And then it was huge, and you wanted the world, to be alive and add things where stuff was happening. So I think this was also a surprise, that because when you cut on paper or like, pre-prod stuff, then you think, wow, we're cutting, people crying, come on, without this part, it will fall apart. And then do it actually, you put it into the game, you see like it's so gigantic.
And maybe it's Dev's Kitchen, but our games have to be super great when it comes to the main plot, main characters, emotions, motivations, and we spend a lot of time crafting those elements. At the same time, the world has to be fulfilled with side quests, small gigs, and counters, and it takes time. So on one hand, you have to be super focused on the main story plot and main characters, and on the other hand, you have to take care of the open world mechanics, and you need to split your effort between those two elements, and there's always a challenge in this aspect. And main plot is always tough. You have to spend a lot of time creating great expositions, not too boring, while side quests are always fun. Because you are not that limited when it comes to that elements, and you can go wild with the sense of humor and events that are kind of disconnected from the whole constellation of the main plot. We saw it was the first time when we had to challenge this aspect of game development.
Yeah, it's also not taking shortcuts in this case, because sometimes you think, main story is the most important thing. A lot of players sometimes, when they complete a game, they actually go for the main quest and they go the most, let's say, planned out route. But there are players that like to do all the side content, and I feel like what I saw like instantly is that there's a lot of love put into the side quests. There's a lot of love put into the smaller things that you're supposed to do. And also some of these like smaller quests, like the frying pan quest, for example, which is not part of the main quest, are the ones that people really appreciate because they either bring humor or they explore something different. We had some elements of like horror and some of the things, because one of the quest designers at the time was into Japanese horrors, Asia Radomska. And it's playing with all these little things and also the things that you're personally into and mixing it in this big game that has its own story. I still remember people say like, oh, I played Gwent instead of doing the main quest, for example, right? You can do that, and the freedom for players, I think, is the most important thing, that you can just have fun with the game in the way that you like. But if you want to go on the, let's say, beaten path, you have a great story. You have these, like you said, like super well-developed characters and relatable. I think what this company does very well is making characters in a way that each and every one of us can find a character that pretty much feels like home for us or is very relatable. We're like, oh, he reminds me of, I don't know, me back then, or...
You mean Dandelion?
Yeah. Or reminds me of, I don't know, my parents or my friends or stuff like that. And I think this is what makes it like very tangible, right?
Yeah, but also like talking about the side quests, because that's my favorite part of our game. And normally people consume it in bite-sized pieces, like I don't know, I have 4 hours in the evening. And usually this is the time to complete 1 or 2 side quests. And this is what I remember. Then that's what I sleep on, yeah? And that's what stays with me and resonates with me the most, yeah? I mean, the major plot, of course, yes, but it's spread over several hours. So sometimes for some people, even weeks. But this quest, and then you talk with your friends, oh, how cool. It was like, watching part of your favorite TV show episodes, which has a few seasons, yeah? And this is the one part where you focus on.
Yeah. And this is actually one of the common denominators. Another one with Andrzej Sapkowski actually creations, because I believe like main plot plus side quests and minors, it finally ultimately it makes the game like a cocktail of genres. This is great because you don't have like as you said, here you have a horror, here you have a humor, like a comedy, like you remember the quest inspired by the Asterix and Obelix kind of it's like. This is really awesome because you can really be surprised every half an hour.
Yeah, find something that suits you or find something that speaks to you, like you said, because there are some, if you have like a certain amount of time to sit down and play, you take it really all in, and then you also discuss it with friends, which makes it even more credible.
We switched to something cool, but
let's talk about the pain.
No, the pain. Yeah,
blood, sweat, and tears.
Part of it,
Talking
right.
about challenges, I also forgot that we were struggling with 2 more challenges. One of them was that we have to invent, plan how the open world works. What are the basic rules? Basic rules are always the most challenging. For example, do we want to have gates or gating? There is a monster. The monster has this ultimate level 100 or something, and you cannot go further without defeating this monster. And it was a bad idea for our game. It works for all from software games, for example. It's natural. It's one of the pillars of those wonderful games. But in The Witcher, it doesn't work. So you have to plan it differently. I remember that the first installment, the first iterations, were all about gating, and then we had to forget about this. And the other thing is something very obvious now, but we don't have quests that you can cancel and replay if you failed. If you failed, we have to create another constellation of consequences, because the story stops when your character dies, not when your character failed the quest. So it makes it super difficult, because usually you have the mission fails, so you can restart it. And here we have it's a starting point for what's next in The Witcher. Now, what are the consequences? I failed, but so there are different choices, different consequences. There are different reactions. It changes relations with my characters, and how to make it not to force players to save and load all the time and make gamers frustrated. Now we kind of know how to manage, how to deal with it, but back then it was really challenging.
Speaking of challenges on the publishing side, I feel like one thing, the core identity of this company, correct me if I'm wrong, is always being straight and honest and open when it comes to giving stuff to gamers. There was a lot of DLCs that were given out for free. We had 2 big expansion planned for the game itself. How was it with, of course, like you guys mentioned, Witcher 2 and then Witcher 3, it was just bigger and there was just more content, there was more things. How was, managing all these things, like creating like a roadmap from scratch? Okay, with this update, you'll get this. With this update, you'll get this. Was there room to also add some stuff, move things around? It must have been like a big pot of goodness.
Yeah, I think, in terms of the publishing, it was crucial, first and foremost, to make the world believe that this is a huge game. And I think it's kind of obvious now, but it totally wasn't obvious. So we were the guys who delivered Witcher 2 first on PC and then X360. And now we were telling everyone that it will be the biggest RPG open world, and it will be the new standard. People were like, yeah, cool, guys.
Yes.
Well, good luck. Godspeed, And so first we had to convince our distribution partners, and a lot of work went into that. And at the same time, we're talking to gamers, going to trade shows. Every single trade show was a huge stress and I would say huge challenge, because back in the day, E3 was the defining place, and you were going there. We as a Polish company, with very finite resources. And then you had all this, EA's, Take-Two's, and Ubisofts of this world with huge boots worth millions of dollars, and we were winning the show. So I think that was incredible. Like we're showing the demos, building the bus our way, like being honest, direct, and of course showing an amazing game and amazing quality.
Yeah, I totally agree. I remember one meeting with our partners, business partners, and I won't name the partner, of course. When Michał Nowakowski he presented the first the numbers of sales, potential sales.
Yeah, what we would like.
Years before the launch, and during that meeting, he presented the numbers, and I did something like but I wanted to keep the poker face.
Yeah.
And our partners, they kept poker face as well, but it was something for the discussion after the meeting with Michał Nowakowski. He did it on purpose. He strongly believed.
We were slightly highballing.
Yes, of course, we were bold.
You also want to see the reaction from the other side.
But it was tactic, like, right? I think it's worth to explain one thing, because right now you sort of put the game onto the digital distribution, and we see it with indie games, with mid-sized games. Like, let's exclude the big stuff with a lot of money for marketing, because then you can sort of explain, they spend it, so it's selling. But suddenly, something, I don't know, on Steam shows up, and you hear that they sold 2 million. Back in the day, it wasn't possible, because they wouldn't have shipped enough stock to the stores, so the stores wouldn't have it. Gamers, they would even hear from their friends, they would come, and they would find out the game is out of stock, thanks buy. That was the case with Witcher 1 and partly with Witcher 2. So our goal was to make sure that we shipped day one enough. And I think we ultimately shipped, in the US, I remember, 1 million units, while Fallout 4, which we're comparing ourselves to, shipped, 2 or 2.5. So actually a lot of Witcher 3 sold after people saw how great it is. Like, that was also a very unique thing with Witcher 3. We achieved pretty high numbers initially, but being, a different company with different history, we could have probably shipped 2 or 3 times more. So more people would get their hands on Witcher 3 day one. Like, it's a very interesting story, because the game picked up after release, and it's usually it picked up on release and not a month after. But the word of mouth was just incredible, and our community built us and built our success.
Very well
I also
said.
remember the way we are trying to market expansion packs, because we're still bold but humble at the same time. I remember, I think Adam Kiciński, just before we just started pre-production, and Adam said to investors and to globally, like, it's gonna take around maybe 5 up to 10 hours, the first expansion pack, and we think about the second one maybe 10 to 15. And it is one of these things at Red that at the beginning you cannot really just wrap your mind around the amount of hours, because then we have fun and you put so much content into the game, and ultimately we have first expansion pack 15 up to 20 and the second 20 up to 30.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
Right?
So even 40 probably the second one.
Yeah, but whenever you talk to any developer that worked at that time, they always say that expansion packs are something where they can just go wild, because the tools are there, the engine is there, the world is built, the main story's done. You can have total fun and just unleash your creativity there.
But like, just so come back to the very beginning of your questions. Like, if there was a master plan, there was, but we're learning as we're going and doing. So each E3 was strengthening us and sort of putting the game higher in terms of expectations of the external world, and it was all fueled by fans and passion and the feedback we're getting both from the press and through the press from the fans, and that allowed us to dream even bigger, because if you show something to the world, and all the other big guys show their stuff, and people see, hey, we love yours, then we see, okay, we have something good. Like, so it was always like a moment when we were coming back from the US and we were like, yeah, we should keep on and we should, fight for it.
But talking about our, let's say, approach to gamers, to community, to the market, there's a very interesting fact because I was the second dev and I spent 25 years in CD PROJEKT, but I don't remember the moment when we created a strategy for that. It was always like that from the beginning, as a principle that our games have to be rich and we need to offer the value for money, and it was always with us. So we had no moment in time when we wrote those kind of rules. It was always with us, and of course it helped. And then we codified it somehow, and because the team was growing, and then you have to find your successors, and it's not that easy to understand how to operate within those limits, because you can always...
We had to pass on the story.
Yeah, you can always ask 500, 600 bucks for the expansion, like the Blood and Wine, because it's huge. It's like regular game plus. So now I think it's one of the pillars, pretty well recognized both internally and externally. And and of course it's all about authenticity, because you can sell buzzwords and pretty nice phrases to the audience, and then you have to deliver, and this is the moment when you have to verify the facts. And so it has to be super organic and super natural to the company, to the whole team.
Yeah, I remember when we established our values inside the company, and we said, like, remembering about gamers is an important value for us and always will be. So that's when we kind of, put it on the list of things. But before that, it was just a feeling, right? And it was, like you said, organic.
But also it's super challenging, right? Because it's great value, I love it. But how to actually manage the balance between, on one hand, transparent and kind of almost like a community oriented, but at the same time, we are like, on stock, right? Publicly traded kind of company. Like,
so what?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So that's.
I mean, if we are transparent, like, first is the game, and the game is for the gamers. The list doesn't matter.
Exactly.
Like,
so keep it simple, right?
If we screw up something there, investors will run away. If we do it right, they'll be rewarded. And I think this is what we present to investors. It's like, I think
it's honest, right?
Yeah, it's honest and it's simple. Like, I think the power of what we're doing is the power of simplicity, really. There is no hidden plan, no strings attached. We all the time communicate.
Yeah.
And of course, on the surface, there are some technical obligations. As a public company, we are obliged to, to deliver, to be super transparent, to deliver facts. And at the same time, there are elements that we would like to keep naturally close to the chest till the end, till the very end, because it's part of, let's say, marketing, business in general.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's challenging, but I totally agree. It's simple.
But actually, being on the stock exchange, like, made us even more transparent.
Yeah.
Because and sort of forced us to put more things in order, because sometimes we're a bit chaotic. I still remember Michał Kiciński, the co-founder. Michał was not very well organized. So he was always telling, when we'll be on the stock exchange, and he was sort of telling this himself. The stock exchange will force us to organize. It did. It did. We have 5-10-year plan. It really helps in planning. And yes, we can change it. We can always, adhere. We can be more bold, more creative, give up on something if we think it doesn't work for us. Yeah, but still, there is this plan.
It helps us with hirings as well. I mean, it's a very tactical level for sure. But people, they see who we are. Yeah. what's our financial situation, etc., etc. So everything is clear.
Yeah.
I think I just want to add. Sorry, it's maybe not in the question, but I want one more important thing which we learned over the time, and I think Adam will totally agree. In all what we're doing, we've learned that we have to be razor sharp focused. Like we cannot do so many things we would love to do. We are tempted to do. We tried and it didn't work out. We have to focus on what we are good at and really put 100% into it.
That's why we switched from a single project company to the multiple project company. No, but everything is in our strategy. We gonna develop AAA RPG open world narrative-driven games, and this is our let's say niche. So the focus is there.
And it sounds so simple. When you're growing, it's hard because there are all these temptations, and these people are doing this stuff online, and it's so cool, and we love to play it, and you think, okay, no, let's take a deep breath and come back to what we're doing, because if we spread ourselves too thin, we'll not deliver.
And ideas are great. Games are better and better, gameplay-wise, and especially gameplay-wise. But you need to take it and adapt it to our concept. So it takes time. The initial excitement is great, but it doesn't work in the long term.
Yeah. What about the overall approach to that bigger is always better? Do you feel like that's the case? Because we're seeing games just becoming bigger. There's a lot of creativity. Like the number one things that you always, first question that you get, how many hours? How many hours to complete main story? How many hours in the whole thing? Is it a sandbox? Is it this? Is it that? Can I do just, I don't know, fishing in the game and then screw everything else and spend 1,000 hours in it? Like, do you think there is a point where it just gets too bloated and you're like...
Game for story, stay for what went, right?
Because yes, our games are huge, and there's an internal, let's say, joke that we are always planning for maximum 50 plus, and then it's 200 plus, something like that. So it's always like that, but at the same time, and of course we know that statistics are pretty clear. To be honest, the minority of our gamers, they finish the game, from the beginning till the end, because it's so huge, engaging, takes time, and we know that games, they have to compete with all the other medias. These days, but at the same time, we sell dreams. We sell dreams. We sell the universe. You buy this game, you play for 10 hours, but you can stay there for almost for forever. And this is the dream. And we feel that it works with our community. Pretty works.
Like Adam said, like we create epic worlds and tell stories in them. So to answer your question directly, if there is a certain essential part of this vision or world missing, like you cannot swim and there is a river, then probably we should work on that. We should allow you to swim. But maybe there is something less relevant aspect, for example, like ice skating, and then maybe we can live without this ice skating,
Oh, there are many people that cannot live.
Yeah. There's always something.
There's always
something little.
This question is literally getting back from some people.
But so open worlds, and this we do not create, of course, open world sims. But it's still kind of an escapism aspect in building our games, pretty positive, and like I said, it resonates with our audience.
Yeah, I think that's very important. Like to have that players actually, and I think what also resonates is that we have this perseverance in us, which we kind of put into patching, a lot of patching, adding content. Like you said, listening to gamers, and actually, if they're reporting things, we are taking those issues and we're actually fixing them, and we're constantly like it's a back and forth communication, which I think is super important, because normally what you would kind of think is like you finish a project, you finish the development on it, you support it for some time, then you cut the support, you move on to the next thing. We kind of the boundaries there are a little bit blurred for us, because we always like, oh, maybe a little bit more, maybe let's add this, maybe let's fix this. Very, very like well seen with Cyberpunk, but also with Witcher 3, because a lot of people remember now, of course, Witcher 3 gets a lot of praise, but in the beginning, since the game was so vast, it also had some problems that need to be fixed, some bugs along the way. And we've been always iterating, going back to it, fixing, getting the feedback. And that's why players appreciated that, the constant.
But you know, like it is sort of like reciprocal reaction, because gamers are playing and they care and they come back with feedback. So we come back with feedback. So they come back with feedback. They invite their friends, and it's like I don't want to say it's an online game, but it has a little bit a feeling of that. It goes on.
Aspect,
It
right?
goes on. I still meet people who just finished Witcher 3. It's incredible.
Yeah, it's like live ops in
like
a single player game.
Like live, not live ops.
Yeah,
you know?
live, not live ops. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, I actually remember. Let's talk about your sentiment when it comes to the releasing the Witcher 3. We just released it, and this the brightest moment that you remember.
I feel it's in my stomach instantly when you started asking this question, because it's always a combination of the excitement. It's a mess. It's an excitement, and at the same time a lot of stress. And there's then this, let's say, plateau effect comes in. So it's really tough. At the same time, these are the moments. I mean, I truly believe that if you won't pass through this launch period, this very successful launch period, you don't know what's going on in game development. And of course I remember that after the first 10, 20, 30 super good reviews, we were waiting for bad reviews. Yes, and it stopped after almost a month, something like that, 20 something days. But till then it was always, oh Jesus, can we keep 90 plus, 91 plus, or 92 plus on different platforms? Yes, and from my perspective, it is always the same. I have this experience. I already have all those scratches on my gun, but I'm pretty not very well prepared to the next one.
Yeah, I don't think you can ever be prepared.
But if you spend years of your life like devoting yourself fully, it's, I mean, I still remember the first week, it's like blank. I was somewhere, I didn't connect that well. Of course, I was, working, digesting the facts, but I couldn't believe it. And it's something what redefines you, and nothing ever is the same. Like you're emerging a new person, like the post Witcher 3 release person.
As you know, it's a great, it's a huge investment, personal investment, like you mentioned, that because it's a marathon. So we spent
I would say it's an ultra
years,
marathon.
years,
Yes.
5 years and more, much more. So some time ago, I realized that you can release, let's say, 4 games of this type, and your professional career is is done. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Only 4. When
Did you,
you're
like,
doing
pass
this
away or just retired?
in the chain. No. So it's a it's a
Yeah.
huge personal.
This is like it's a
investment.
game, but it's a years. And then, when we're discussing it, I think like thousands of meetings,
Mhm.
Mhm.
maybe not tens of thousands, but thousands of
Thousands of
meetings.
meetings.
Yes,
Yeah.
hundreds of like from on my business side and
Millions
PR
of
marketing,
changes.
Yeah.
hundreds of international trips. Like it's incredible. Like
Yeah.
I remember the day of release. I was so swamped. I was still dedicated to my work because I was working on the DLC 16th, which was like additional finishers.
Mhm.
And it was like I was working still, like I was just continuing working.
Still
I
in
was just like,
production mode.
how was it? It's good. Like 10 out of 10 game spots. That's great. Let me work, kind of like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was
No
As-
stopping.
And of course,
yeah, I couldn't stop.
and of course, there's trauma. In my case, there's always a trauma. And when my wife she asked me, okay, can I play the game? I said no, immediate no, no. When I'm in our place, no.
Yeah.
So and maybe after 2 years we can jump back in to our games and
But like
yeah.
okay,
And
so
enjoy it.
let's maybe not be that Polish. Let's be a little bit more positive. Because it's like no, it was tough. We
Oh
hardly
my god,
survived.
I wanted to
I
pull
passed
it.
out for a week. I was working day and night, continue,
Yeah.
because
It was
I had no
great.
choice.
It was great.
Overwhelming.
No, but it's a very releasing experience. Also, like you feel certain freedom, and as creators, you see that your baby, it's liked in the world, and it's appreciated, and and you've created something totally new. So you're. I was super proud and happy. Yeah, of course, it has taken me some time to understand it and sort of like to get through the layer of tiredness of the stress and everything. But it's an amazing experience. Amazing.
Yeah, you need that time to stop and appreciate it also, I feel like.
Yeah,
to
and you
really
need to
take
get
it
some
in.
distance. You
Yeah.
know, you really need
Totally.
to get some distance.
Yeah. Really like take it in. Do you both have a favorite aspect of the game, or like I don't know, it can be location, it can be character. Well, what to you like speaks when you think of Witcher 3 Wild Hunt?
There are multiple things that I really love. First of all, it's this unique sense of humor, because even after 10 years, it's so enjoyable. This is the first thing. Of course, that we truly love to create universes, and the open world is still a challenge for me at the same time. But I enjoyed a lot how to create it, how to make it better and better. But the Witcher White Hunt in particular characters, for sure. When we were preparing to the new Witcher game, and we were listing great moments and great characters, lists are so packed.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, for me, I think the bonds with the characters I formed during playing the game. So that was like, I feel like they're real. They're like my friends, and I remember them for a long, long time. And I think so. The gamers all around the world, and then regardless of the language, because I still remember when we launched the game in China, and you think like, will they like it? Is it the beauty canon? And they say like, we absolutely love it. We love the characters, and they tell us their personal stories. So it resonates all around the world.
Plus, the combination of totally different events, different moods, different fairy tales combined, because we are switching from super humorous moments to Bloody Baron quest. And like I said, that it's so packed. You can switch from totally different quest tonally or some are super action packed. Some are
Yeah, exactly.
very
That's what I wanted to say. Like in Blood and White, the Hanzas and the hack and slash. I loved it so much. Like it was probably like a release and relief moment. I was just going and
Yes,
hack and
yeah.
slashing at the end of the
and
game.
sometimes it's so melancholic and so sentimental. So this is what I truly love.
A single thing that you would make differently, just to be a bit more Polish, no?
Adam's gonna say something funny. I can tell. The smile instantly is like.
There's so many things. I don't remember the ultimate one.
I don't know. I wouldn't. I think it's there are so many things where as we discussed, updated and corrected after the release. Like it's in a great place, and let's not change history.
Yeah. No, my favorite thing that we patched, it was that adding fast travel next to the Baron.
Yes. So you don't have to run.
And you have
I remember.
You have the
I was
guy who's
running a lot.
like putting the pawn into them.
That was very cool. That it was done in that way. That he's actually building the fast travel signpost.
Exactly, it's a signpost, and you get bug, and it's there, and it works.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, it's the little things, and also making it realistic because he's actually building it.
Exactly.
So it makes it more believable.
Yeah.
Incredible. How do you think we kind of know how Witcher 3 inspired Cyberpunk, but how do you think Witcher 3 inspired us moving forward into now doing, like you mentioned, multiple titles? What were the learnings and what made us be bold? Because I feel it's bold moving into the future, working on multiple projects, and it's also bold to, how we handle everything after Cyberpunk. So how do you see the playing field now moving into the future?
It's your turn now.
I think that's. I would like to keep one thing. I would like to keep this spirit of this, let's say, bless of ignorance. If you don't know that something is super challenging, you can achieve it. Yes. Sometimes faster and less painful. So because at the very beginning of The Witcher White Hunt, we decided to combine those two things, water and fire and water. We would like to continue this with this approach with all our new next games. We have to add something. We have to add something that changes the consensus. We don't want to create to copy our own tricks all over again and again. So every game should consist something new, and even if we work within we follow our strategy. So again, open worlds, not story driven, quality, huge open world games. Every new game has to bring something new. So this is a general rule for the company, and this is what happened with The Witcher White Hunt. Yeah, successfully.
Constantly raising the bar.
Yeah. Sounds easy.
It would be boring without it.
Exactly, because it's on personal level, on your professional level, we have to, on the professional level, you have to create a proper, nice strategy for the whole company. But on the personal level, we don't want to be
CEO.
We just don't want to
Finally.
we just don't want to be bored.
Shots fired there.
Yeah. Before it was just I'm just doing games, like strategies. Leave it. And now, okay.
Grown up.
Growing up.
Because you, Adam, you're the creative force. You've always been the creative mind and kind of focusing on let the artists speak, let them, but now it's more, you're also seeing let's say the business part of it, but also the overall like looking from atop, you would say, and also seeing the whole picture.
But you know, it's coherent, super coherent, because with one game in a chain, one by one, it takes so much time. So having multiple projects, which is a big change in our strategy, gives us more opportunities, to be more creative and to achieve way more. And I don't want to brag, but as a company, we are pretty good in creating new IPs, new worlds, and new universes. This is the most exciting part of our business. So, like I said, business and all the creative aspects work together, and this combination is pretty coherent. So there is nothing like strict distinction between this is business monetization, or this is fun and entertainment. It works together.
I think it's super important what Adam is saying, because good business comes out of the vision being realized
Good
properly
stuff,
and gamers having fun. It's so simple, but at the same time, it's so complicated. So we have to dream big, because if gamers will be bored, this whole formula stops working. And we'll be bored as well. And our creative people will be bored, because they'll think, I already did that twice, so why should I do it?
And let's be super honest. We have super loyal community. But gamers, they expect the best things, and the last game is the thing. Your wonderful past doesn't matter. The current,
The there and now,
yes,
now matters.
Exactly. and if the game sucks, if Cyberpunk launch is super bad, super bumpy, this is the reality.
That's who we are at this given moment.
And of course, we can get special treatment from our loyal fans, but they expect good stuff, fun stuff.
When we were talking about it, I still have the echo of the words that Greg Zeshuk, the co-founder of BioWare, said when we were showing them The Witcher 1, and they were helping us with their booth, and I'm always immensely grateful for that. And Marcin, you're as good as your next game, and I still remember this. So that's what we're doing here.
Yeah.
And it never changes. This rule.
I love the rule, actually.
Yeah.
No
You're as good as your...
No pressure.
No
pressure.
It's like
no, not really.
Sebastian, no pressure. But it's like kind of this like with fighters, like you're known from your last fight, not how many you've done previously. It's always the last one matters, and it validates you as the person you are.
Maybe the mood around the table is pretty Polish, but we are getting older. But the fact is that we are super privileged. We make games. We can bring fun. This is awesome, and let's not forget about this. And this is the message for our team.
Yeah. I remember this is one thing that stuck with me. You once said this, that when things get super serious, there is this saying, remember, we work in entertainment.
Yes, entertainment.
End of the day, we work in entertainment. We're here to bring people fun, laughter, memorable stories, something that will inspire. There's something that will, take them away from problems of the everyday world. And this is what's important. And we cannot forget that ever.
Yes, exactly. And our games... The Witcher has brought everyone together. It's a combination of gamers, creators,
artists, fans, and it's a big thing right now. But it's still super positive, super positive.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we have to remember that.
Yeah. Two last questions. One is, if you had to name one thing 10 years later that you're most proud of, it can be anything, it can be personal, it can be professional. But if you had to say, like, when it comes to 10 years of me in CDPR after Witcher 3, I'm most proud of, and just name a thing.
Oh, Jesus. The worst questions ever.
Yeah, so I'll start. As I'm non-executive since over 2 years.
Mhm.
I'm the most proud of the company when I enter, and I come, once every week, 2 weeks, and I see the happy faces. I listen to the chats in the canteen, which are usually very inspiring. And I look around the people and I see, happy, creative people, and yeah, I couldn't be more proud.
Oh, that's
Beautiful.
That's amazing.
Mm. It's gonna be kind of personal because I grew in a very, let's say, challenging country. Poland was ruled by the communists for a long time, and
The usual Polish happy accent.
and yes, yeah, but we were thinking. I was thinking
And Łódź. So,
locally, and this local environment wasn't nice.
Yeah.
In my early days, early years, and I'm super proud that right now we created something that is not local anymore.
It's global.
It's global, and people. It's so cool to see people on the streets of New York, Tokyo, wearing our swag, with the t-shirts and being proud of it, and this is the biggest thing for me.
I feel also the recognition, right? You go somewhere and someone
Yeah.
sees like a
Yeah.
Cyberpunk t-shirt or a Witcher. Oh, I played that game. Do you work there? Oh, you
I
work there. Oh
mentioned-
my God.
I
It's just
mentioned
like,
this many times.
yeah.
It's so nice when you go through the customs and the officers react on the name of your company.
Yeah.
Super positive and
Yeah.
So one, like talking about this, I had like a couple encounters. One, I was in New York just with a friend, regular t-shirt. I wasn't wearing any swag, and we went to Guggenheim to see a show, and I was buying tickets. And the guy selling tickets. Wow, sir, you're Marcin Iwiński, one of the creators of
yes.
The Witcher. I'm like, yes. And I'm like, how do you know me? And we had a huge fan. So like I was blown away.
That's
And this
incredible.
happened several times. Yeah, that's exactly what Adam is talking about.
that's amazing.
I was talking about, to be honest, I was talking about global recognition of our games, not your face.
Sorry,
Marcin's face.
I wanted to have a happy
next to
moment, but,
Radok, right?
Yeah.
no, it's super cool. Super cool.
Last question. Kind of a little recruitment thing, because the people that watch this are either in the industry or are starting out. If you had to convince someone in this moment of time, 10 years after Witcher 3, why it would be cool to come and work here, or maybe give someone a piece of advice if they're just starting out in, let's say, pursuing a game development career, what would you say to that person? With so much experience in
So
years.
I'll say something simple. Because actually I'm on LinkedIn, I'm getting a lot, and I had to install an autoresponder. I spent quite some time writing it, but I'm pretty much redirecting people to our HR page. But what I'm thinking about and looking at my and probably yours experience as well, it's like, go to our website, see if there's anything interesting for you, and don't be afraid to apply, because it's worth your life. Like, I think if you really want to unleash your creative potential, I think we have a lot to offer, and you can create something really big and meaningful. So I would encourage you to give it a try.
And of course you have to think like a gamer always. Don't to forget about this aspect, because it's a hard work. You can forget about some principles at some point, and this principle is the thing here. and you have to stay curious and fresh. And so you try to find different activities in your life that will counterbalance the pressure in your personal career in game development, because like I said, it's hard work, and it's gonna be a hard work, which is good, but try to keep the balance. Yeah. Yeah.
Well said.
Awesome.
Put a pin in it. I love it. Guys, thank you. Thank you.
so
Thank you
much.
so much.
This was
Thanks a
a
lot.
important episode in our
Very
lineup.
important and inspiring.
Yeah,
Yeah.
super inspiring. Thank you so
Thanks.
much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. We hope that you had a blast listening to these two amazing guests, because we definitely did.
Yeah, I have to say it's been a privilege. It's been something that, like I said in the beginning, that I was waiting a long time to do. And what a better time than the 10th anniversary of The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. But as always, don't forget, comment, like, subscribe. Let us know what you're thinking about the episodes. If you want to have any certain guests that you're thinking about from CDPR that you want to see here, let us know. We're more than happy to kind of take care of that for you. And we'll see you, as always, in the next one.
See you in the next one.
Bye.